Throughout World War II and the Holocaust, Adolf Hitler was responsible for the murders of 12 million people. However, Hitler was not the only person to be blamed for the deaths of many innocent people during this period of time. Dr. Mengele played a key role throughout World War II when it came to making decisions about who would live and who would die. Joseph Mengele was a doctor at the concentration camp Auschwitz-Birkenau. He used the people who were sent to these camps for labor, or for his own personal experiments. Mengele decided which people were too weak to be put to work at the camps and which people looked strong enough to be able to perform back-breaking labor. Dr. Mengele's decisions like these ones affected the lives of thousands of people. Because of the time that Dr. Mengele was involved in World War II and the Holocaust, the events and experiments that he participated in or conducted were well documented. Dr. Mengele played an important role in Auschwitz by deciding the future of many of the prisoners' lives. Dr. Mengele impacted the prisoners by being a part of running Auschwitz, and the way that he helped run the concentration camp shows how brutal the Holocaust was. Dr. Mengele was born on March 16, 1911 in Gunzenberg, Germany. He was the eldest son of Karl Mengele, who worked as a manufacturer of farming products. In 1935, Joseph Mengele received his Ph.D. in physical anthropology from the University of Munich. Dr. Mengele was not originally a member of the Nazi Party, but in 1937 he joined. A year after he joined, Dr. Mengele received his medical degree, and in the same year he joined the SS. In June of 1940, Dr. Mengele was drafted into the army and saw combat firsthand on the Eastern Front. While fighting, he was wounded severely, and because of this, he was taken off the front line. After he fully recovered in 1943, Mengele was moved into Auschwitz-Birkenau. When he started in Auschwitz-Birkenau, he was put in charge of the Gypsy Infirmary by his superior, Dr. Edward Wirtz. Dr. Mengele was one of about 20 doctors who were involved with the 3 different infirmaries that were located in Auschwitz-Birkenau. The other 2 infirmaries were specifically designated for men and women. During his time working as the head of the Gypsy Infirmary, Dr. Mengele took an interest in twins, pregnant women, the sterilization of women, and people who were physically disabled. These are the people that he would later perform some of his most brutal experiments on. Dr. Mengele was one of many Nazi officials who were given ramp duty. Ramp duty required that someone who held a position of power in the Nazi Party would stand overlooking the many people coming off the trains. They would then decide if they would go left or right. One man said, "The selection process had 3 phases to it. A, those who were old, sick, very young, were moved to the left, and those were marched to the gas chambers. Those who were able bodies in the eyes of the selector. The selection process was done under the supervision of Dr. Mengele with his henchmen. If you look strong enough, you go to the right. The 3rd phase was when you arrived, they selected people for medical experiment." After time, this job and the way he chose to approach it resulted in him coming to be known as the Angel of Death. He was known as the Angel of Death because he wore a white lab coat, making him look angelic, and he was responsible for the death of thousands of people. Occasionally, when Dr. Mengele was on ramp duty, chambers are used in Mengele's experiments, which resulted in them most likely being killed anyways. Mengele's goal was to experiment on people in order to create the perfect race. During this period, the blue-eyed Aryan race was, according to Hitler, considered the ideal race. By experimenting on all different types of people, Dr. Mengele wanted to find a method or pattern for creating this so-called perfect race. Everyone who came off the trains in Auschwitz feared Mengele. His reputation with being cold and having calculated intentions preceded him. Mengele held a position of power which only made him more dangerous. One woman recalling such events says, "I was very much afraid because Mengele was 3 times a day visiting the barrack and discussing with the doctors. I know one thing, there were people disappearing overnight and I never saw them again. And I was so much in distress because I was so much afraid. When were they going to take me?" People who were placed in the barracks lived in fear because at any moment they could be taken away for Mengele's experiments. People who lived in the medical barracks were constantly checked by several different doctors throughout the day, and they were fed slightly better than those who were in the non-medical barracks. They all feared the moment when a doctor would call their name and take them away because when someone was taken, it was rare they were ever seen again. Dr. Mengele had been head of the Gypsy Infirmary in Auschwitz-Birkenau for much of his time there. He was well known for what he had done, and when World War II was in its closing months, Mengele was given the title as head of all the infirmaries in Auschwitz-Birkenau. However, His new title did not last because 3 months after being promoted, the war ended and there were no longer concentration camps.